name's Andrew from i4 Automation. I'm not from Unitronics, but they gave me the t-shirt, so hey, why shouldn't I wear it? It's a nice t-shirt as well, nice long sleeve one. Right, today we're talking about the special offer that we're doing on the training kit. We've got the PLC, yeah, it's a bit cold in here today. Whoa. Right, we've got the PLC, we've got the power supply and the cables, everything you need to get you started, plus a 2-day training course here in Cambridgeshire. What I wanted to talk to you about today is not just the special offer, the training kit, the starter kit, sorry, but a little bit about some of the expansion. This PLC we supply as part of the training kit is a TR22. That means it has 22 inputs and outputs. Now, you might want to add to that. So there's a couple of options there. We've got the Unitronics proprietary I/O expansion, which I'll cover in a second. But there's also things like Ethernet I/O. So the Ethernet I/O will allow you to expand. It will allow you to add I/O inputs, outputs, analogs, high resolution analogs, using either a Modbus header, which is ideal obviously for working with Unitronics, but there are other headers. So if you want to use Profinet, for example, or EtherCAT, you can use different headers. We're a little bit sketchy on the support of that because we don't tend to work a lot with Profinet, for example, but it does integrate nicely with Unitronics on the Modbus. And so you can have the different slices. It's nice, it's compact, it's nice and small. So you can have that distributed around a system quite readily. If you want something a bit more with a higher IP rating, you could use the I/O link. Now, I/O link is pretty well established. It's used in a lot of applications. It's quite interesting. The more I look at I/O link, the more I see that there is a lot of sensors out there as standard that have I/O link built into them. And that gives you a lot more information and feedback from the sensor. And it's a no-cost option. Quite often the standard sensor has I/O link built into it. I think the manufacturers just find it easier to integrate that into the whole building of the sensors. We tend to use sensor parts. There's quite an extensive range of sensor parts, sensors with I/O link built into them. So that's a couple of ways of expanding your I/O. But if we look at the Unitronics, this must be the lowest cost option way of adding I/O to your system. Now, in terms of the PLC, we can add comms to the left-hand side here, and we can add I/O to the right-hand side. So I'm just going to show you how we actually add that I/O. So we've got a module here. This is an 8-in, 8-out, which is what we call a standard width. We have a 1.5 times width module, which is 16 in and 16 out. So you don't have the same, I guess the term would be real estate. You don't have the same size in terms of the panel space for having more I/O. All with plug-in terminals. The terminals aren't in here because this is part of our demo kit, so it's in the demo case. I've just taken them out to show the demonstration today. So you can just plug that in. Inputs tend to be in the top, outputs at the bottom. Same with the PLC, inputs in the top, outputs on the bottom. So if we're going to add this to the PLC, what we need to do, first of all, hopefully you can see this, there's a cover on here. Whoa. So we'll just remove the cover. And that will give us access to the expansion port. Now, this slides in. It all nicely clips together. Let me just undo these DIN rail clips. So that slides in, mount the DIN rail, then we've got to make the electrical connection. So we slide this across. Okay, so now we've got the electrical connection, we've got the mounted on the DIN rail, that's all nice and robust. Now, that gives us an extra, so we've got a TR22 and an extra 8 inputs and 8 transistor outputs added onto it. And then we configure that in the software accordingly. Now, you can have I/O distributed using this system. There are cables up to 30 meters. You can have a total length. It's a lot easier when you're looking at the I/O limitations to actually put it into the software and try it and see whether it comes up as a legal configuration or an illegal one. Now, if we want to mount this, and let's say we've got another DIN rail or we've got some distance to cover, there is a number of expansion cables, expansion kits. Now, in true Blue Peter fashion, here's one I prepared earlier. This is a 125. Now, 125 means it's 1.25 meters long. The next length, I believe, is 3 meters. And again, there is a number of cables here pre-formed. They have the RJ45 connector on them, but they are not Ethernet. Okay, so when you get this, if you need a powered or an unpowered, again, I would suggest you look at the software and do a configuration. The powered one tends to be more for the more powerful, the units that need more power basically, and bigger configurations. For using one or two, the unpowered is most probably ideal. We tend to stock a lot of the powered ones because you can use the powered ones always. Okay, so in terms of connecting this, we can take this apart. This is how it arrives in the box. And it's nicely labelled, expansion end and expansion base, and 24 volts DC on the bottom. Now, most probably one of our biggest technical support calls is when people add I/O to their system and it doesn't work. And they haven't put any 24 volts to it. It's just one of those things people seem to miss out. So there is a plug there, comes with a plug-in, and we can just add 24 volts to the bottom there. Should be the same 24 volts as the PLC, but I know lots of people don't do that because it's not very practical and it seems to work fine, but the manual does state you need to have the same 24 volts. So in terms of expanding that, same principle. It's just like adding I/O. We'll slide that on here on the end. It's very hard, you know, to actually configure and build up a panel when you're doing it from the inside. I haven't removed the cover from the expansion. Oh, there we go. There's the little cover there that I removed earlier on the other port when we added it. So we'll pop this in here. Okay, so that's the electrical connection made, nice slip, and the mechanical clips. So that's all now connected. Now with our expansion I/O, same principle. We need to slot this in place. Connect it onto our DIN rail, make our electrical connection, so we need to slide the connector across. So now we're all connected, 24 volts on there. Take your cable and let's plug that in. There we go. It's ever so hard doing this from the back side. Now you're all ready to go. So you've got your expansion, we've added that. You could add this expansion module straight onto the PLC. You could add several modules on here. In terms of the limitations, as I say, it's always worth putting it in the software. We've then got a 125, so that'd be ideal if you had another row of I/O going underneath the processor or above the processor. And then we could expand onto here again in the same principle. There is more further expansion allowed. The rules for the expansion, it really is worth test checking in the software just to make sure you got it right. I don't know what else there is really to cover on that. Expansion goes onto the right-hand side, comms modules on the left-hand side. Apart from that, there are the other ways of expanding the I/O using what we call Ethernet slice I/O, but you could use other protocols. And you've got the I/O link. So that's all from me. We've still got the special offer on. We've still got the PLC, the power supply, the cables, and the training course still available from us at i4 Automation. That's it from me. So thanks for your time.